Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Sunday evening via Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, the All Star Break is done. It's not the halfway point of the season, although it generally feels that way and is kind of always posited that way. The Islanders have, I believe, 33 games left in their season. In case you or anybody else forgot, Patrick Waugh is their coach. Which I find myself remind myself of every once in a while. And so this is it for them. They're going to come out of the break with a bunch of games we're going to talk about here. But it's about to get really wild here. And if these first few games go sideways, things could be pretty bleak towards the end of the season. But if they start picking up wins, these last 30 or so games are going to be pretty wild. Coming out of the break, where's your head at in terms of the Islanders? Like, is your optimism level high? Is it low? What are you thinking right now?
It's been a kind of a back and forth internal struggle, because some days I'm pretty optimistic and then other days I'm not. And I told myself I was going to try to get away from it for a few days and not even try to think about it. So when you're having that internal monologue with yourself, when normal people, when they have those kind of internal monologues, it's like, I'm going to put my computer down. I'm not going to think about work.
Right.
I'm not going to, think about this family stuff or bills or whatever. But I had to have that discussion I had to sit myself down on a fake couch and inside my own mind and say, it was my daughter's birthday on Thursday, her birthday party this weekend. And I was like, just try to not think about, not even the Islanders, just the how do you feel about the Islanders? Like, I'm gonna think about the Islanders. There's Islander stuff all over my house. So anytime I see like a logo or whatever, I'm gonna think about the Islanders. But I tried to just stop thinking about the playoff race, and because I finally convinced myself nothing that I'm gonna do during the All Star break is gonna change it. I have no power in this situation. And then I said on Sunday, when the dust kind of settles on the week, then you can start to hammer it down, and I've done that, and so I've done some homework and looked at strength of schedules and how teams are coming, the schedule for teams coming right back from the break, health stuff, Renaissance paintings, all sorts of stuff that I've looked around, and I gotta say, I can't tell you if I'm optimistic or pessimistic at all, because I think it's an absolute true crapshoot for these last 3 playoff spots. One being the third place in the Metro, and then the 2 wild card spots. Or if you want to say the 1 wild card spot and then the third place in the Metro, however you want to look at it. And I think the man you mentioned right off the top, Patrick Waugh, is a huge part of this crapshoot.
Yeah.
Because who knows how the Islanders are going to be with almost half a season under Patrick Waugh.
Yeah.
Who knows what this team's going to look like on the ice by the end of the regular season here. So after all this, I've just arrived back and just buckling up on this roller coaster ride, getting back on the ride. I'm so happy the All Star break is over. It's not that I miss Islander games, but I do miss the ritual, looking forward to the game all day, and then hating myself for looking forward to the game all day. Kind of, that's that rhythm that you're in during the season. So I'm ready to get back to that.
Yeah, and like you said, this is a true crapshoot. Like, it's just, we have absolutely no idea how this is going to play out, what's going to happen, or really anything going forward. I mean, the Islanders have been a chaos engine all season long, and now they've changed their coach, and so we don't know what he's got up his sleeve, what he's been thinking about over the All-Star break. And they practiced today. We're going to talk about that, what Patrick Waugh talked about after the practice. We're going to talk about some of the guys that were on the ice this afternoon for practice, and a new coach behind the bench, and a guy who's not there. Actually, a couple of guys who aren't there. So before we dive into all that, reminder that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Plans start as low as $2 a month, and you get ad-free episodes of this show, plus bonus podcasts like one we're going to do this week, written posts like one that came out last week, and a whole lot more. So sign up today, patreon.com Islanders anxiety. Before we talk about the All-Star stuff, we're going to have an area of grievances in the second half, plus an epic Master Leaf Theater that you will not want to miss, I promise. We do have some Islanders stuff to talk about, despite the fact that they haven't played since a week ago from Saturday. So, first of all, they made it official on Friday that Patrick Roy has brought in his first new hire to the coaching staff, Benoit Desrosiers, who was the head coach of the Gatineau Olympiques of the QMJHL, has been hired as an assistant coach. This was teased a little bit by some of the French media guys, refuted by the Islanders, and now they hire the guy anyway. So ultimately, a lot of noise came to nothing. This guy apparently was Roy's video coach, I guess, back with the Quebec Ramparts for a while. Now he's a coach. Now, he's going to work here. He's going to be behind the bench. Roy talked about today. Both John McClain and Doug Huda are still on staff. And I don't know anything about this guy. I don't know this guy from Adam. We barely know Patrick Roy at all because they've only had 4 games under him. But one thing I think we can say for sure with this Benoit Desrosiers hire is that the Islanders' French Revolution is upon us. Like, now we are going to get an influx of French Canadian guys on the Islanders that we have not seen before. Obviously, the Islanders have had many great French Canadian players, Mike Bossy being one of them, although his background is Ukrainian, but he grew up in that area. Andre Saint Laurent and Dennis Potvin and all these guys. This is the new Islanders French Revolution. Patrick Roy bringing his boys in. What did you make of the finally hiring, the actual, hiring of Benoit Desrosiers? I can't remember ever having an opinion about hiring an assistant coach before, but again, these are strange times. So do you have an opinion about this hiring and what it means for the Islanders?
I don't have an opinion in terms of the how this move affects the Islanders, because, or like the actual players and how the game's going to be played. But I do take a lot of pleasure in this French Canadian revolution that's ongoing here, because it's just something I did not see coming.
Right.
We see a lot of things coming on the show, and
Sure.
it's not just you and me. It's everybody who listens. Like, we'll get DMs, and the Islanders fan base is so good at reading the tea leaves because of how crazy this franchise has been over the past 30 some years. And of course, we have to read the tea leaves with this general manager, and in the previous general manager, it was almost impossible to read any tea leaves because things were just so in flux all the time that those two polarizing forces have created us, have galvanized in us this like incredible ability to see things coming, and not like, oh, the Islanders are going to sign or trade for Kyle Palmieri, not like that kind of stuff, although we see that stuff coming too a lot, but like stuff like this, like this French Revolution, this French Canadian Revolution. These are very different things. The French Revolution and the French Canadian Revolution on long for the New York Islanders are two very different things. Both equal forces for good, perhaps, but we'll see. And this was so off my radar, as a whole. And then this saga, this mini saga inside the bigger romantic French Canadian saga with Benoit Desrosiers has been a lot of fun to follow, because some random Quebecois TSN or RDS guy reported this a few weeks ago. The Islanders had to put out a statement saying that's not true, and I love that in these statements they always refer to Lou Lamoriello as president of hockey operations and general manager Lou Lamoriello. Like, he always gets the title in front of it in every tweet, including the one when they hired Desrosiers as the assistant today. So this saga has just been a lot of fun to watch. You know what it really reminds me of? And I know all coaches bring in their guys, but do you remember when Teddy Nolan came in and like the Sault Ste. Marie crew and the Sault Ste. Marie, then Moncton crew came with him.
Right.
Dan Lacroix and Danny Flynn just started popping up, and you kept hearing those words like Moncton and Sault Ste. Marie all the time on the island. It reminds me a little bit of that, and I'm excited to have this new culture, because the French Canadian hockey culture, Of course it looms, but because of the language barrier, I think there's a reason we're not as familiar with what goes on in the queue, in
Mm,
Quebec, in the inner workings of Montreal, let's say, how those hockey politics work compared to, for example, Toronto.
mm.
Um, there's reasons why we're not as familiar, but we're gonna get familiar. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun to learn this culture and hear these accents, and in a kind of fun, ironic twist, the first, I guess, victim of the French Canadian Revolution was
Right.
a French Canadian player.
Right.
Julien
Yeah.
Gauthier
Yeah.
heads across the Sound. So
Right. Yeah. I was going to get to that real quick though. You don't have to go back as far as Ted Nolan to find this kind of thing. I mean, how many University of Maine guys did
right,
the
yes,
Islanders
yeah,
have
the Maine
under?
Mafia, right?
Right. That's right. Mike Dunham. Right. Obviously Capuano. I think a bunch of other guys. So yeah, no, we're used to this, but yeah, the accents are going to be different. Not that we're going to hear DeRoget's because Lou Lamoriello doesn't let assistant coaches talk to the media, but Waz has been great so far. But I am curious to see who all follows him from the queue, which I think would be a lot of fun. But we'll have to see. I mean, this guy came like highly recommended. Apparently, it was a big deal coming out of, like you said, RDS or whatever beforehand. But we'll have to see. Again, we don't normally make a big deal. You know, assistant coaches are there that you only know about them when something goes bad. So that's how
Yeah,
we all know that. You know,
or if they get hired by the Toronto Maple Leafs, then it's
right.
a huge deal. This is the kind of story we'd make fun of the
That's
Leafs
also
for.
that is also true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're gonna make fun of one of those in a minute, but yeah, no, that is true as well. But you did mention, yeah, the first casualty in this French Canadian Revolution was in fact Julien Gauthier, who on Friday was placed on waivers, which was kind of surprising. I don't think any of us kind of expected that. Not that he's kind of lit the world on fire with the Islanders. He did not go claimed, and so he was loaned to Bridgeport on Saturday. A couple of fun facts, at least I think they're fun, about Gauthier's season so far. So, did you know that he's played 27 games with the Islanders this season?
No, you wanna know why? Because all I hear about is when he's not in the lineup, like, when is he gonna get a
Right.
fair shake? And I'm like, "Oh, I guess he's only played, like, 8 games and has scored in every
Right.
one of them because I remember the goals."
I
And,
am shocked. It's
yeah.
27 games. That's more than half the season. You're kidding me? He's played more than half this season, and he scored 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points.
Yeah.
I
It
These are shocking numbers to me. Shocking.
it's, it's frustrating how we all knew what the Julien Gauthier experience was
Right.
because we saw it with the Rangers, and
Mm,
then they traded him to the Senators, and obviously we know, um, we kept an eye on him just
mm,
around, and you read about him when the Islanders signed him, and he followed his career trajectory to a T.
mm.
I mean, Julien Gauthier did a great job of playing Julien Gauthier in the Saga season because
Right.
he couldn't have he couldn't have fit his profile better. Here's a
Mm.
guy with great speed, great size, good shot, and the hockey IQ of two amateur fans complaining on a podcast, basically, right?
Right.
Like we watched him for every nice play he made, beating out
Mm.
an icing. He washed it away with three bad icings or a
Right.
failed clear or whatever. You're like, dude, it's hard. Who
Mm.
are we to say it? But come on, where if this is what's been dogging you your whole career, wouldn't you think, all right, I got to work on this part of my game, and he just somehow never got there. So,
Right.
um, who knows? He might come back up. He's in Bridgeport. I
Mm.
think it ends up being a pretty good thing that he doesn't get claimed because
Yeah.
it just gives the Islanders haven't been able to call up basically anybody from Bridgeport because the team has been pretty bad this
Yeah.
season outside of Kyle McLean, and it gives them at least an NHL body, an NHL-ish player
Right.
down there. But yeah, it's just disappointing because he just didn't deviate from the script a lick.
Yeah.
He convinced part of the fan base big time, like this guy's top 6 winger.
Yeah.
And then I would see these, tweets about him after a game or whatever. I'm like, what game was I watching? Where I mean, did nobody else see this guy take that
Right.
dumb tripping penalty in the offensive zone to absolutely like crush the momentum
Mm.
for this team? Or and what am I missing here? Because he's not doing enough to make up for those boneheaded plays. And
Right.
of course, there are other players who were doing that too that didn't get held accountable. But the point being, this guy's role didn't allow for him to make those mistakes, and he kept doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I'm just shocked because I could not have thought to me, I don't remember seeing him out there in 27 different games, and I certainly don't remember all 5 of his goals. But it also, another fun fact is like in looking at his career, we did see him with the Rangers. He had 131 games with the Rangers, which is by far the most he's played in his career with 4 teams. But the Islanders are now second on that list because he only played 5 games with Carolina and 17 with Ottawa. So the Islanders are now his second most played for team, and he had 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points in those 131 games, which is not a lot. And so his 9 points in 27 games with the Islanders represents almost 35% of his output with the Rangers in 131 games. This guy, he's fascinating to me. This waiving has made me appreciate the insanity of Julien Gauthier more than watching him play for the Islanders ever possibly could. Like
Yep.
what an insane career this guy's had. It's nuts.
And we brought this up a lot. This is the frustrating thing about the Islanders just not having a consistent solution to that part of the lineup. Let's call it the third line, wing alongside with Holmstrom and Pajot, because Wahlstrom and Gauthier in a lot of ways were just looking at each other in a dystopian mirror,
Right.
where it's like, yeah, I'm the guy who's quicker, and the other guy's the guy with the shot and the offensive instinct in the hands, but they both had the same fatal flaw, which was just a lack of situational awareness and hockey IQ, and neither one of them. I don't know how many games Wahlstrom had played this season. If you asked me, I would say like 11. That's what it feels like, but I would have said the same about Gauthier.
Right.
But how could you spend so much time in the press box watching the guy you're competing with play and be like, okay, so he just made that boneheaded play. I got to remember not to do that. And then you get inserted into the lineup, and then the next thing that happens is you see the red line. You have 3 strides to get there. Nobody's pressuring you, and you're like, I'm just gonna dump this thing into the. No one, we'll beat out the icing, right? It's not good. Right. It's just a little icing. A little icing didn't hurt anyone. Like, no, you play for the Islanders, man. Every icing hurts. Every icing. I mean, this has been a roster battle for the ages. It's something else. It's 2 dudes trying to mud wrestle, and it's just they keep falling all over each other, and it feels. Man, it's that old adage of nobody seems to want to win this game. Come to life, manifested in this roster battle, but somehow, for some reason, Wahlstrom ends up getting the edge, and he finally gets his chance. Dan, wouldn't you know? The Islanders are finally going to give Oliver Wahlstrom a fair shake here. After 11 fair shakes over the previous 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, we'll get to Wahlstrom at the end of this segment, but yeah, you're right. But no, I was going to say, this is like, 2 guys, 1 spot. Nobody seems to want it. But I was going to say that Gauthier is sort of like Schrodinger's winger. Like, he's both alive and dead at the same time. Like, he's both in there, but he's also not there at all. So anyway, good luck to him in Bridgeport. God knows these Bridgeport Islanders can use a little bit of help. Currently, it's the AHL All Star game, and Ruslan Ishkahov is there. So good luck to him. Hopefully he turns some heads. And that All Star game is usually on Monday, and I think it will be tomorrow too. So anyway, that's your Bridgeport update. That's more than we get here normally, but we'll have to see. And again, I think it's mostly they'll be able to call him up at any time. I expect to see him back with the Islanders again at some point this season. Now, you may have missed this, but the Islanders made 2 other Bridgeport-related transactions this weekend, although I don't think really either guy went anywhere. Actually, one of them happened last weekend. So Kyle McLean was loaned to Bridgeport last Sunday after the Islanders' last game against the Panthers. He played in 3 games, had no points. I think they won 2 of them, which is more than you could say for most of the other games that the Bridgeport Islanders have played now. He'll be back. I'm pretty sure he was returned or will be returned at some point. And Simon Holmstrom was actually sent down in a paper transaction. I don't think he didn't go anywhere, and he was eventually brought back really quickly. And the reason they had to do that was because of some very important news, which is that Ryan Pulock was activated from IR. He was at practice today, as was Adam Pelech. And both of them, Patrick Waugh did not say that either of them would be in the lineup tomorrow or Monday, I should say, that you're listening to this, against the Leafs in Toronto. But the fact that they were both on for practice is already good news. Casey Cizikas and Robert Bortuzzo were both moved to long-term IR, but Cizikas was also practicing. So we don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's not such a long-term IR for Casey, but in any event, he's practicing. So that's good to see him there. Hudson Fasching, though, did not practice. He's still a little bit banged up, but again, no word on the lineup decision. But I want to focus on Pulock and Pelech right now because Pelech obviously got hurt in that head injury in Montreal a couple of games ago. Pulock's been out for quite a while. I heard he was walking around in a boot. Can't be good. So to see him back is pretty surprising, to be quite blunt. But getting these two guys back and using them as a pair, which they were obviously very successful at prior to Patrick Waugh coming, prior to Lane Lambert's coming here, would be an absolute enormous change for the Islanders. And it would go a long way into sort of normalizing what we were talking about before. We don't know where this is going to go. And Waugh said as much today. He said that, Dobson and Romanov have been playing 28, 30 minutes a game, and they've been doing great. But if they can reduce those minutes to 20, 25 and add Pulock and Pelech back into the lineup, into the mix, and get them out there doing what they can do, that is a game changer for the Islanders, literally. And so, again, we can't speculate if they're going to be in the lineup on Monday against the Leafs. But, man, seeing these two guys out there again did fill me with a good deal of optimism. Still a little leery about how this rest next 30 some odd games are going to go, but having those two guys out there is going to make me feel a lot better. And I assume it was the same for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this adds to kind of the confusion of not knowing or not having a good grasp on how the season will play out, because the Islanders, I'm going to say something to you, and I don't know if you were aware of this, and I think it's true. Maybe I'm making this up, but Ryan Pulock and Mike Riley have never played together. And it feels like Mike Riley has been here for 6 months.
Did they pick up Riley when Pulock got hurt?
Because Pulock got hurt in that Columbus game, I believe.
Yeah.
Then the Islanders played, or maybe they played one game together, because then they traded for Bortuzzo
right
after. So whatever it's been, I think it's been 1 or 2 games that Pulock and Riley have played together. It's very little.
I thought Bortuzzo was first, wasn't he?
Maybe it was. Maybe it was Bortuzzo, then Riley. Whatever it was, this really goes to show just how confusing it is. The point being that Ryan Pulock's been out for a long time, because that Columbus game was, I believe, when he got hurt, right? Because they ended up coming back in that one. That's the early December, because it was the one right after the Sharks.
Yeah.
So December 7th, he's been out since, I believe. So that is a long stretch of games, and I can actually pull it up right here. So the Islanders have played 24 games without him. They're 9-10-5 in that stretch, and had a host of embarrassing losses. That you'd assume that Ryan Pulock would have helped, not be embarrassing losses.
Exactly.
And that kind of adds to this. Nobody knows how good this team is or could be, because Pulock and Pelech have played very little together. Like, it's been, when Pelech was hurt originally to start the season, Pulock was in the lineup. Then Pelech comes back, Pulock's hurt. Mayfield's been in and out of the lineup with that, and it's just the Islanders bring Robert Bortuzzo and Mike Riley in between. It's just been absolute chaos on the back end, and both on the ice and on the roster sheet. So I don't think that this is a small move at all. Like, I think that this is a pretty big deal that the Islanders get Pulock and Pelech back. Of course, I want them to win on Monday, and having those guys in the lineup helps them, but I'd almost rather, because they have a couple days off between, they don't play again until Thursday, and then they play that what could be a pretty big game against the Lightning, and then the Flames right after that. I'd almost rather them just be like, we're not going to play them against Toronto. That gives Pelech almost 2 weeks to the day since he was hurt, of just rest and recovery. It gives Pulock a couple extra days, and who knows about Cizikas because he's now on LTIR. But I'd almost rather them just do their best to go into Toronto and scratch out a win without them and give them the extra days because we're going to need those guys for every game that we can get them. So I want them at their best. And I also have to say, like, I was pretty scared that was it for Adam Pelech.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, at least for the season,
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah, I mean, my big fear in a lot of, not just now, but a lot of times with these cases, but particularly now, is that they're rushing them back. Like, and I think that's what you were kind of getting at. Like, I'm afraid that, they know this is a dire situation. They've only got 30 some odd games to get back into this thing. They got a new coach. This is the All-Star game. They aren't that far out. Again, mathematically, they are definitely not, eliminated from the playoffs, but the odds are getting longer every day. There's a bunch of teams that jump over. And I am afraid that hopefully they're not rushing these guys back because, again, as far as I knew, Ryan Pulock was not expected to just show up at practice just after the All-Star break. And yeah, that Adam Pelech injury looked really bad. And he was just coming back from a concussion as well that I'm sure nobody forgot. So this is a pretty scary thing. If they're sincerely good to go, this is a huge boost for the Islanders. No question about it, obviously. But if they're not, that's what gets me kind of nervous.
Yeah.
They're not ready.
Yeah, and I think Pulock is definitely. I mean, I'd assume they're both ready because, I mean, it's been 8 weeks for Pulock with a broken foot, and I was wrong about the Mike Riley situation. He had played 4 games with Pulock, I think it looks like. But
could have fooled me. I don't know.
Yeah, but it just goes to show you how long he's been out for.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it's because they signed Riley. They picked up Riley when Mayfield or Pelech got hurt. One of the times, but I think like 2 months is probably enough for a broken foot, and then but if given the situation of having a couple extra days, just if it is a toss up, just let the guy keep getting into game shape and don't risk it. But yeah, it sounds crazy that Pelech is coming back, but that they're so careful with head injuries now that if he is coming back, he's okay to come back.
Yeah,
because especially with someone who has a history of it, they wouldn't risk it. At all. But it's I mean, I think if you had polled 100 Islander fans after that hit and asked how many games do you think Adam Pelech will play for the rest of this regular season, the majority, maybe 80%, would say 0. So this is awesome to see him and coming back after that because he just did not deserve that at all.
Yeah, seriously. If the team of the guy committing the penalty is saying it's a garbage hit, it's pretty bad, and that's exactly what happened. It universally decried hit by Brendan Gallagher in that game that hurt Adam Pelech. But again, like you said, there's no guarantee that they play against the Leafs on Monday. So if they don't, the schedule was such that the Islanders have Tuesday and Wednesday off before their next game. So if they don't play, I don't think there's anything to panic about. We probably are just giving them a couple extra days, and then they'll come back at home against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll get to that in a second because there is one more thing to cover, and you mentioned him before, and that is Oliver Wahlstrom. And how he figures into this whole thing is by sending Gauthier down, they opened up space to bring Pulock back. One more thing about Cizikas. If they were to activate him at some point, they're going to need about $2 million in space. So somebody else might have to go too, but we'll worry about that when because Cizikas is ready to come back. But Wahlstrom figures into this because with Gauthier gone, that spot is his now. And, Lou was talking today, which again was a little bit surprising because Wahl spoke as well. And what Lamoriello said was, and this is a direct quote, you can find this, I'll link to this article from the Islanders webpage. He said, "We're going to give Wahlstrom a good look. He has to not worry about scoring or anything, but just go out and play. He puts a lot of pressure on himself, so he has to go out and play and have fun. Something I believe is that every night there's a different person who can come forward. Let's not worry about points. Just go play." Which I thought was interesting. One, this guy's had plenty of chances to play, and he just hasn't. Two, I guess he does. I mean, Wally doesn't seem like the kind of guy who puts a lot of pressure on himself, but maybe he is. Maybe he knows that, his time here might be short if he doesn't start to produce. And, that spot is now available to him. But 3, the idea of like Lou Lamoriello being like, go out and just have fun. That sounds weird. That sounds like a trap. To quote Admiral Akbar in Return of the Jedi. It's a trap. Like, I don't know what Lou's idea of fun is, but it is interesting. And like, maybe having that spot will be good for Wahlstrom. I don't know. Like, I'm like anybody else. Like, I want this guy to produce. He just hasn't. And every time he's had the chances there. I mean, again, this guy spent half a season on the line with Matt Barzal, and he didn't do much. So hopefully this is that time when he gets it together. He starts putting up points, starts scoring, starts contributing offensively. Because again, if he does that, and the Islanders get Ryan Pulock and Adam Pelech back, now you're looking at a much more complete lineup. And now you're looking at a team that can hold. And plus, with the instruction of Patrick Waugh, he was talking today about how, over the last bunch of games, like, they've had the least amount of offensive chances against in the NHL, which is pretty interesting. I like to see those stats myself, but that's what Waugh is seeing. So, with that stuff implemented, with these guys coming back, with some contributions from Wahlstrom, again, the optimism starts to get higher, a little bit better, and maybe these 30 games turn into something really good, and they can solidify the last playoff spot. But I don't know what we don't talk about Wahlstrom that much because there isn't much to talk about. We've kind of said our piece about him, but like, where are you at with Wally 4.0? Are you ready to give him a good run here and get a good look and hopefully he has fun out there?
Yeah, he finally gets his chance after 184 games with the New York Islanders.
I know, it's so funny how we talk
about this. What's frustrating here is what you've said. Like, it's not that we're rooting against the guy. It's we need him. We need him to be
right,
a contributing member of this team,
right,
to have a chance. This isn't October anymore where we can evaluate him and be like, all right, like, it's not working out, but
right,
it's a problem that we can figure out as the season goes on. The season is on. And every goal really matters here. So I think you'd have to think that Gauthier getting sent down helps him say,
right,
like, okay, you're getting a run here. You're going to get a few games at the very least to show up. Maybe that takes some pressure off, not having that guy looking over you, like literally physically looking over you at your shoulder in the locker room.
right.
But there's no more excuses. Even like, I can't believe even Lou, who is the perhaps poster child of not making excuses for anybody, almost cut him a break there, which, who knows? I mean, maybe that helps as well. That I've never heard Lou Lamoriello say anything like that about a player.
Right.
He's putting too much pressure on himself. Like,
right.
I don't remember Lou ever saying anything about that. Like, as the Islanders were circling the drain
right,
a couple months ago or last year around this time, and it's usually like, we need them to perform better. They need to play better. They need to check better. All that kind of stuff. Not like that. So I don't know. I'm at a loss for words for him. I really hope that it works out and he can find it. The thing that's so frustrating here is we know that he's got a couple of good tools. Like, he's shows those flashes with his hands. He's got a good shot, and he can be pretty powerful. Like, the goal that the Islanders scored against the Panthers was just Wahlstrom winning a face-off, well, kind of losing a face-off, but keeping the play alive by just barreling forward. The puck pops out to Holmstrom, and it's a tie game. Like, he just doesn't ever seem to have an impact with, and his shooting percentage in the NHL. Like, you'd expect a guy with that kind of shot to be the type of player that you're like, yeah, like, when he gets a shot off, it's dangerous, but it's really not. Like, his shooting percentage is under 10% in the NHL. He's got 34 goals in 184 games, and he's taken 361 shots, so it's a 9.4% shooting percentage. That's not like what you'd see out of, I hate to bring this name up because you know where I'm going to say, but like a player like Daniel Sprong, who is known as just a guy who, when he gets a shot, like, he's not a 200-foot player. He's basically a specialist and a pure goal scorer. Doesn't really bring much else to the table, but when he shoots the puck, it's dangerous. Wahlstrom hasn't even been that, really, that's the frustrating thing here, because you're like, okay, I know you got a good shot, buddy, but prove it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. Like, can you like, I see Kyle Palmieri, the dude, I think also has a great shot. And he just works his butt off to create anything. And when the puck is over the blue line, in the offensive zone, Kyle Palmieri just skates into things. He's like always. We joke around, me and my friends, that Kyle Palmieri is just always in the process of falling. He's just always, because he's skating into players, into the boards, into the
Right.
crease, and he just does all this stuff. And when he does get his shot off, he, more often than not, at least he might not be scoring, but at least it's creating something, or there's already been some chaos on the ice
Right.
that is Tasmanian devilish. And Wahlstrom can be that kind of player, and there's nothing wrong with being Kyle Palmieri. Like, Palmieri's on pace to score 20 goals and have around, I don't know, close to 50 points this season, maybe like 45, 50 range. And just do that. Like, Wahlstrom should be that. He should be a second version of Kyle Palmieri almost. And I don't think that's setting the bar too high, and nor is it setting it too low. But he can't do it because he just doesn't do the things that Palmieri does, which are pretty simple in my eyes. Like, just create some chaos and confusion, keep your legs moving, and don't do anything stupid, really.
Yeah. I mean, if Wah can be the Wahlstrom whisperer, I think that would solidify his status.
But Lane was supposed to be too, remember? Like, a lot of people pointed fingers like, oh, Barry's gone because Wahlstrom didn't play. Like, yeah, I'm sure that Lou Lamoriello was choosing between Oliver Wahlstrom and Barry Trotz when it came down. Like, all right, everybody, I've got one fishbowl here and I got another fishbowl here. Yeah. Put a piece of paper in this one if you want us to keep Barry, and put a piece of paper if you want us to keep Wahlstrom. Like, that's not how it works. But yeah, I'm rooting for him. But I have zero expectations that this is going to work. So please prove me wrong, Oliver. Please.
I know we would love to. We would love to be. I mean, as one of many guys who, again, we've wanted to break out, and they just never did. And if you haven't listened to our latest episode of Weird Islands, the podcast about Michael Dal Cole, there's another one for you. So go back and listen to that, because it was a lot of fun with our friend Brian Compton. Okay, so let's wrap up this half by talking about the games that they are actually going to play this week, because this has all been set up for 3 games, 2 at home, 1 on the road. And again, things, they don't wait. Monday, the day you're listening to this, at night, 7:00 in Toronto. Islanders Maple Leafs is the last meeting of the year for them. For Matt Barzal, he was at the All Star game in Toronto, so he's the only one who I think wasn't at practice today. Everybody else more or less was, who was healthy. And this is a weird one. I keep hearing a lot about, like, oh, the Islanders play the Leafs well. They play the Leafs well. Yeah, I guess, but go win a game. Like, we need the Islanders to win games. They need to win games. We had a lot of fun with the loser points and the overtime losses in the first half of the season, but the time for those is done. They need to start getting 2 points out of these games. And starting on Monday against the Leafs, I'm hoping for maybe a little bit of a hangover. Toronto kind of went a little bit overboard over All-Star weekend. So I'm hoping that, somebody dipped into Michael Bublé's mushrooms and maybe partied a little bit too hard, and that'll be hungover on Monday. But, the Leafs, again, are a good team. Like, they can score a lot. And if the Islanders aren't tight in their own zone, they can be a problem. So I don't like this matchup at all. And then Thursday at home, it's another team that the Islanders, I don't like the matchup with, the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's an 8:00 start on ESPN. I don't make the rules. Sorry, that's how it is. I don't know why it's so late, but what are you going to do? Maybe it's part of a doubleheader or something. But that's a tough one. The Lightning aren't the same Lightning that we've seen lately, but they're obviously still very good. And the Islanders might still have a bit of a hex on them from those 2 playoff series. And then on Saturday, we have our first proper Saturday matinee of the season against the Calgary Flames, who have had as up and down a season as the Islanders have, and started trading off guys. Elias Lindholm is now a Vancouver Canuck and stuff. So 3 teams, all pretty good, good or better, really, in most of these cases. They're all spread out, which is nice. And I mean, again, as we've been saying, like, they need to win these games. If you take all 6 of these points, we're back in business. If you take 4, all right, that's pretty good. Maybe somebody else lost. If the Flyers hit it, still are struggling a little bit, you're in good shape, and you can maybe crawl back into 3rd place in the Metro. If they don't take more than that, if they take less than that, if they get a point in overtime loss, maybe in Toronto, maybe they beat Calgary or lose again in overtime, and they take 3 out of these 6 points, that's going to be a real problem. And it's going to take whatever small amount of optimism we have in this episode down to very, very dark levels. So looking at these 3 teams, what do you see? Where are you at? What do you think they can do against these 3 guys? Because again, all these teams have have good points about them. We could joke about the Leafs goaltending all day, but they can score a lot of goals. let's put it that way. And the Lightning and Flames have been kind of up and down, but they're still good. Like, it's not like they're just falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of party line from Islanders head coach Patrick Waugh, who is the Islanders head coach, has been that it's playoff hockey for the Islanders from this point on, right? And these first two games are playoff games. The Islanders are 6 points adrift from Toronto, with Toronto playing has 2 more games left than the Islanders, and they are 7 points back of Tampa, and Tampa's played one more than the Islanders. Tampa finally got hot right before the break, and have annoyingly but kind of expectedly righted their ship. So like you said, like the Islanders, there's no way that this week is okay and will make us feel better without them getting 4 points out of these 3 games. And particularly, you want to make sure that you do everything you can that those 4 points come against the 2 teams in your conference here, because just putting some pressure on them is huge. And I think I guess now is a good time just to kind of size up the race, because these 2 teams are in it, and it's so hard and convoluted to figure out what the Islanders are going to need to do over the second half to quote unquote guarantee themselves a playoff spot. I think most people would agree that 95 points would absolutely get you in with the way that this season's going.
Yeah.
And that would require the Islanders picking up 41 points from their last 33 games, which is about 106 point pace, which is what they did, almost exactly what they did last year after the All Star break. I think they played at 107 point pace over their last 30 games or so. And it's crazy how this season, I don't know if we talked about this on the last episode or if I was talking about it on Line Change at the Action Network, but all we heard this summer was, this is a season that everything's going to be different. The Senators, the Sabres are going to come up and set the Atlantic Division on fire. The Western Conference is the Oilers are going to run away with it, but everything else is up for grabs. Everything, who knows? The Avalanche have problems. We don't know how good the Knights will be after the Stanley Cup. The Panthers in the East, they were hurt. It's the exact same season playing out again. The exact same season, almost to the Winnipeg Jets. Everyone's making a big deal about the Winnipeg Jets being one of the best stories of the first half. They did this last year. They were in first place in the Western Conference in the middle of January last year. The Sabres and Senators, they're doing the same exact thing. The Islanders are having the same exact season, even though it's insane. The Penguins are having the similar season. There's like 3 teams that are having different seasons from what they did last year. And it's going to require the Islanders to continue that trend and just have the same season.
Right.
But outside of that, I think when you try to size it up, the Islanders are actually in 2 different mini leagues here. One for that number 3 spot in the Metro, where the Flyers are 4 points ahead with 1 more game played than the Islanders, but on points percentage, it's Flyers, Penguins, Devils, Islanders. So that's one mini league, and then they're in another mini league for the wild card spots with those same teams, plus the Red Wings, Maple Leafs, and Lightning. So in a way, like, we're all going to be scoreboard watching. Tuesday night in particular is going to be a horrifying night, because the Flyers, I think, are playing the Panthers. The Devils are playing the Avalanche, who are playing the Rangers the night before. The Penguins are playing someone, I think, pretty decent, maybe Winnipeg as well. And the Islanders will be off, having played the night before. So I'm not saying you shouldn't scoreboard watch, but I think the way I'm just looking at this is almost like a yes-no proposition. Can the Islanders get 41 points from these last 33 games? And with every win, that proposition becomes easier to say yes to. And with every loss, I'm going to have a lot of trouble going to sleep. Because it's like, seriously, 43 points from, not 41. But it's I don't know. It's so hard to make any sense of, because Detroit's schedule coming out of the break is really hard, and I can't see Alex Lyon playing this well for another 32 games, which is how they've put it together. I don't. It's just the Flyers situation we don't need to get into, but a lot of people are saying, okay, that'll probably be what does them in, and nobody knows what to expect out of the Islanders, the Penguins, or the Devils. So,
Right.
I mean, and I'm not even mentioning the Capitals because I just fully expect them to, shit the bed here, which is
Right.
probably not fair to them. But it's like
all three of those teams, by the way, have 51 points, and the Islanders have 52. So they're all very live, very going into this last week, very much in contention. And again, if the Flyers start to fall apart, they're gonna open up a spot for one of these guys for sure.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even I'm. Is anybody confident in the Leafs? Like,
No.
no, I don't think so either. Like the Leafs have been all over the place too. The only reason they look good is because they went into the break on a 3-game winning streak,
Right.
which just goes to show you how important it is to find one of those.
Yeah.
Like if the Islanders come out and go like 7-1-2 over their next 10 games, we're gonna be feeling amazing because that's really all it takes. That's what the Red Wings have done. The Red Wings are 6-2-2 in their last 10 games,
Right.
and I think they're like 8-3-1 over their last 12 or something. That's really not moving heaven and earth, but it provides a huge difference when every other team is just throwing up all over itself in these two mini leagues.
Yeah, and I don't need to tell you all that should the Islanders come out and beat the Leafs clean on Monday on their home ice, the Islanders would have 54 points, the Leafs would have 58, the Lightning would have 59. So like that would immediately wipe away all the good vibes from All Star Weekend, and that kind of angst is priceless. Like we could, so not only would the Islanders help themselves out a great deal, but they would make things a little bit more entertaining for all of us as well. So yeah, it's a big one. And again, anything less than 4 points is really not going to fly. Like it's not going to work that way. And the season won't be over because I'm assuming a couple of these teams are going to drop some games too, but they need to start picking up wins in bunches. Like you said, 6-2-2 in their next 11 would be great. 7-3 in their next 10 would be great. Something along those lines. They need to start putting streaks together. And I think and in fairness, I think they understand that.
Yeah.
They just need to do it.
And without looking ahead too far, like the Islanders can set themselves up by putting together like a modestly good 10-game stretch here.
Right.
Because their February schedule is pretty tough, but there's like a spat of games in March where there's like an opportunity for them to actually go on a rip where they're playing like the Sharks and the Ducks, the Blues, the Sabres, the Senators. There's an opportunity for them if they can find a way to close the gap between now and the end of February to actually become like the favorite to get the playoff spot if they can beat the teams they're supposed to when those games arrive. So yeah, it's just like you said, it sounds almost stupid to say, but it's just they just need to win. They just need to win a couple games here, and it feels like the Islanders haven't won in ages because like they haven't. They've won 2 games. I think they've won 3 games in 2024.
Right.
So that's 2024 is now a month old, and then some. They're 3-7-3 in 2024, and somehow still alive in the playoff race. So just if they can just be better,
right?
That's all it takes. That's all it takes is if we're not. It's crazy how little we're asking from these guys.
Seriously. 2 quick things before we stop right now and go on to the second half. One, the next 3 weeks, or really 2 weeks, is light in terms of games. The opponents are tough, but this week you got those 3 games. Next week, it's just the Kraken on Tuesday and then the Stadium Series game on Sunday. So that is not a ton of games to play in a 2-week stretch, which means that coming out of that, the Islanders are probably going to have games in hand on everybody, which is going to be helpful. 2, the Lightning, who play the Islanders on Thursday, are at the Garden on Wednesday. So again, another chance for the Islanders to beat a team on the second half of a back-to-back. Again, we're not asking for much. Just beat a team that played the night before. It doesn't sound like it's that hard, but for these guys, they've made it hard. Okay, we're going to stop here. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back in the second half, air some grievances about All-Star Weekend, and give a brand new Master Leaf Theater that you will not want to miss, I promise. So meet us on the other side. And now, a word from our sponsors. First is VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, mugs, and more, featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey also carries our Al Arbor and The Island merch, and our portion of the sales always go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. Use the code ANXIETY20 to save 20% off an order of 2 items. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a 2022 Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly. So, as you all know, the All-Star Game and All-Star Skills and all that stuff was the last weekend out of Toronto. I am a man of my word. I did not watch a single moment of it. I caught some on Twitter, and that's about it. And from what I saw, I'm glad I didn't watch it because it was exactly what I had feared. It was just lots of, it was a very Toronto-centric thing, as that is what it should have been. That's the Toronto, that's the All-Star Game for you. But I feel like we get this kind of stuff every day, and I realize that I have become just far too cynical for this event. I used to really enjoy it. I used to really look forward to the All-Star Game, the matchups, the jerseys, all that kind of stuff, and I can't do it anymore. My excitement for the other teams in this league and this sport in general has diminished quite a bit. You could say most of it died July 1st, 2018, if you want to be dramatic about it. But that's just how I feel. We have many great listeners who are from Canada, who are from and around the Toronto area. If you guys enjoyed this, then I'm glad. I'm happy for you. I really do. I really think that, if you love this sort of stuff, that's awesome. If you enjoyed seeing Justin Bieber palling around with NHL players and that filled you with a great sense of joy and maybe, national pride, that's awesome. And I'm happy for you. I really am happy for the people that found this entertaining. I did not. And so honest to God, outside of Philip Forsberg, who was on the winning team with Mathew Barzal, we'll talk about that in a second, I have absolutely no idea who any of the Western Conference All-Stars were, because I saw Justin Bieber more than any of them. Like, that was all my timeline, was all Bieber. It wasn't even, we got a little bit of Michael Bublé the day before. May or may not have been on mushrooms at the time. I don't know if he was kidding or not. Barely saw any Will Arnett. Barely saw any of the girl, Tate McRae. I don't know her. I don't want to comment. It'd be creepy because I'm old. But to me, it was a little bit funny that it was sort of like Justin Bieber and the NHL All Star Game. But Mathew Barzal was on the winning team. That was captained by Austin Matthews, had 4 Leafs on it, so everybody got to be happy. The night before, Connor McDavid won the All Star skills competition, so everybody was happy. It was they got exactly what they wanted out of this, and it was absolutely nothing that I wanted myself. So that's a me problem, and I just have to kind of accept that. You hate All-Star games in the best of circumstances, so I can guarantee that you probably watched less of this than I did. But do you have any impressions, any takeaways from what happened this weekend in Toronto?
No, much like the Julien Gauthier experience, it went exactly as I expected, and people told us it would. I didn't watch any of the All-Star game on Saturday. I didn't miss it. I can tell you that much. And I think it's I think it's true. Like, the All-Star game is not, All-Star weekend is not for the general hockey fan, let's say. Its purpose is for the NHL to get a couple of vignettes on Twitter that the big media personalities then can retweet.
Right.
That's what it is. It's that's what it's come down to, at least in my eyes. And like you, I'm pretty cynical about it. Because it seems like the sole purpose of this game was almost just to be cool in 2015, right? Like, let's get so much engagement. Let's get as much online engagement. Like I don't think that any in 5 years from now, like that's not how we're going to be looking on whether or not events are successful.
Mm,
Maybe like the end of a Super Bowl, they say like, oh my God, Super Bowl 56, there were
mm,
2.7 billion engagements online, setting a record. But that's not what people are talking about. They're
right.
talking about the Super Bowl all day the next day.
Mm,
The Super Bowl itself. The Super Bowl is a behemoth, and it's unfair to compare the NHL All Star Game to the Super Bowl. But nobody goes into work the next day
mm.
and says, "Man, Tom Brady, that Tom Brady pass got retweeted 860,000 times."
Did you
And
see
I
the
think that's what.
engagements on
Yeah,
that
and I
Travis
think that's
Kelce touchdown? Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
almost the NHL is so heavy-handed and like, no, this is the point of the NHL. It's not for you,
Mm,
hockey fan. It's not
mm,
for you. It's for us to present to enterprise so they sign up again to be a sponsor next year. Like
right.
it's sad, but that's how I look at it now. And I didn't watch much of the skills competition. I
Mm,
watched a little bit of it because I'd bet a few of the events, and after I don't know 10 minutes, I was like, I can't even watch this. It's kind of just killing me, and a lot of it was due to the fact that ESPN was broadcasting, and it was
oh
terrible. The
my
first
god.
I turned it on right at the beginning, and the audio was just broken. It was broken.
Mm,
There was muffled mouth, and I it sounded very robo voice, and I Googled, Twitter searched like ESPN audio, and everybody's like, "What the hell
mm,
is this?" And that goes to prove my point even further. Like they don't care about it. Like they don't care that the audio is not working for those streaming on ESPN Plus. All they care
mm,
about is the people who are there, who are
right.
covering it, are tweeting out, "Oh my God, look, there's Justin Bieber and look at Will Arnett's cool Maple Leaf hat," and stuff
Right.
like that. Like that's what matters, is getting those moments out of these games,
Mm,
out of this weekend to the people who are making the decisions. And I
yeah.
heard that I could deduce that the skill competition was well received, and that's
Right.
all we're going to hear about tomorrow morning when
Right.
these podcasts. It's going to be 25 minutes of it,
Yeah.
and the problem is the people who are putting these podcasts on,
Mm,
they were there. Like they're not ever watching these games on TV. They're never watching
yeah.
these games on ESPN
Mm,
because they're in the media. They're covering it. Like I would love for Elliot Friedman or uh, Kevin Bieksa, please,
mm,
please watch a game on ESPN Plus.
yeah.
Excuse me, watch a game on ESPN, like the hockey night, and watch Kevin Weeks and John Buccigross
Mm,
call a hockey game, and then we can have a discussion on about like growing the game and how cool these events are, because this is what we're dealing with right now
yeah.
as the general hockey fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was not for me from
Yeah.
start to finish, and I know that, and uh, I feel almost like it's almost a little sad that I feel
Mm,
this way, and
yeah. I
I like
agree.
get mad at myself for even
Yeah.
thinking like this, but I feel like I can see through what they're
Yeah.
doing very easily because they're not coy about it,
Yeah.
like at
No.
all. They're not
No.
coy about that. Here, oh, oh my God, look who we're bringing in for the All Star game, and
Mm,
it's yeah, it's
yeah.
not for me.
No, I hear you, and I feel the same way. I feel like again, I think and I'm sure again, people are they're gonna roll their eyes and be like, get over it, enough already. But I think a lot of us had our eyes opened to just like what our place was back in 2018, and we found just exactly what the world sort of thought of Islanders fans, and we found out the year after too, like just where we thought, what they thought of us. Like it's just when the team got good, then it wasn't about the team being good. It was about oh well, now they're just doing what they do. Well, what are you talking about? Like, how do we go from being these guys are going to suck to being like having their best season in 30 years without nobody ever mentions it, and just before I get back to the All Star game, I listened to a little bit of 32 Thoughts on Friday. I made it, I think, 3 minutes in before I had to turn it off because they were talking about the Canucks Flames trade, and I get it, but like the way that Elliot Friedman went, the Canucks, Jeff, I want to make this clear, they are all in. I turned it off. I couldn't deal with it. I just was like, who are you speaking to right now? Like, are you on Sportsnet 720 in Vancouver, or are you talking to Joe Hockey Fan in Long Island, Philadelphia, Dallas, Florida, Arizona, Anaheim, whatever, like, because you're talking to the Canucks fans right now. And it's like, he wants them to know that he thinks highly of their team. And it's just like, and then I was like, you know what, let me try something. Cause I like the idea that those guys do sort of the general, news of the day. That's why people listen to them. That's why I want to listen to them. But the bent on it, I just can't take. And so I was like, you know what, let me try another podcast. So I know that like Daily Face Off does their thing. And I go listen to theirs. This is the Frank Saravalli podcast. Frank apparently got into trouble for saying something about Sidney Crosby. I don't know. I don't care. But they had a couple of guys on. And again, they were talking about it. And one guy's like, I just want to talk about how great it is seeing two Canadian teams in the arms race. You have the Jets getting Sean Monahan and the Canucks getting Elias Lindholm. And it's so great seeing this arms race between these two Canadian clubs. Again, who are you speaking to? Like, it's not me for sure. And like, that's fine. But like, I just don't know who else they're speaking. Like, there's got to be other people out there like us that are like, I don't want this sort of slant on it. I just want to know what's going on and like what the news is. I don't need this. I don't need to like start waving the Canadian flag around all the time. And like, those two teams aren't even in the same division. So what arms race are you talking about? Like, I don't understand. So it's just, again, it like you said, you nailed it right on the head. Like, it's transparent. Like we get what they're doing. And like, maybe that's because that's where they get their clicks. That's where they get their traffic. I totally understand that. And I don't want them to like tailor it for me because who the hell am I? But it's not for me. Like, it just isn't.
No. So. It's the sports, the NHL All Star Game probably jumped the shark a long time ago.
Oh yeah, surely.
And rather than admitting it and just being like, look, it's broken, we're trying to fix it or whatever, they're just like, we're just kind of where Fonz landed, we're just gonna pick up the pieces from there and keep going forward. And I do think that because of that, they've pulled every source of media and entertainment with them a bit. And I think it's taken longer for some to get there, but to your point, like 32 Thoughts, which was and still is appointment listening for me for the most part, because especially now where we're a month away from trade deadline, it's gotten to the point where you can almost feel I don't think Jeff Marek as much to his credit, but Frege, like he's trying so hard to almost impress a select group of listeners,
right?
Almost like it's very high schooly. Like I'm gonna make this joke or make this hot take or say this little thing, and maybe like that's somebody on Spittin' Chicklets or NHL or Kevin Weeks will like say something or whatever, or John Bucci, I don't know, but it's very it's heavy-handed in its approach, instead of just being like doing what they were doing 2 years ago, which they still. I mean, you can go back to listen to our podcast from a couple of years ago, talk about how frustrating it was to hear how the Islanders were covered, but I don't think I was very upset with how the whole league was covered.
Yeah,
we'd poke our fun with them being, with Marek talking about the 1978, Brampton Battalion or something like that, but it wasn't like this, and it's frustrating because you're just like, can one corner of this league, I need the information from somewhere.
Right.
I don't want to just see it on Twitter pop up. I'd like to, kind of be in the know and have these discussions with my friends and stuff throughout the day. So can I just hear it without the phony, bit playing? It's very, it's like dog and pony show kind of stuff. It's all shtick now. It's
it's definitely
just drop it, because it's like, even at the All-Star game, these guys are there and all they do is they're basically just taking pictures of Justin Bieber or Will Arnett or Michael Bublé, whatever it is, and it becomes this weird situation where you feel like, who is this? Is this event for Chris Johnston? Like, is it a celebration of hockey for Chris Johnston and the folks at The Athletic or TSN, or is this my friend used to work at WeWork, and they used to have a 4-day work retreat, basically,
Hmm.
in the woods, and he never went because he's like, it's very strange, it's very culty, I'm not getting involved, and it turns out to be a great decision for him. But he like when I think about the All Star game now, it's like it kind of feels like that. It feels like the NHL is just like, hey, we're in this city, and then all these guys come, and then they just talk about, you know, hey guys, here's my vacation in Vancouver this week. Plus,
Hmm.
look who's here and who I'm seeing, and this concert's going on, or I got to do this and that, and um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not for Chris Johnston
Hmm.
to the NHL All Star Game isn't supposed to be for him. It's supposed to be for fans, and
Hmm.
the only way you know if it's a success or failure, and hell, maybe it is a success. Maybe most of the fans liked it.
Yeah.
Is by going through them and not what Nick Nico or someone's going to write on NHL.com. Like it's.
Well, yeah. I mean, you said it before. They're gonna talk about what a great success it was,
Yeah.
and how all the players loved it.
I mean, even last year when everyone was like, "This is so bad," they're like, "Guys, like the NHL tried something here," which you got to give them credit for at least trying. Like, what?
Yeah, I know, it's strange. I'll tell you what it also is made for the Chris Johnstons of the world: the Four Nations face-off, the best on best. I have heard the phrase "best on best" more times this weekend than I ever have in my entire life, and that includes seeing the movie Best of the Best, starring Eric Roberts. It came out probably, I would say, 1989 or so, martial arts movie. Yeah, again, I'm already sick of this. Like, I don't know, I don't want this, I don't care. Like, I don't get any sort of like national pride from watching Team USA play. Again, I'm not trying to make a kind of statement. I'm just saying, that's not how I relate to hockey. I'm an Islanders fan. I want to see the Islanders do well. And I've said this before, when Robert Reichel came back from the Nagano Olympics with his gold medal for the Czech Republic, I was happy for him. I was excited. Like, that was awesome for him. He skated around the Coliseum with it. I was happy that one of my dudes tasted success on the biggest stage you possibly could. I did not feel that way necessarily for like Dominik Hasek and Jaromir Jagr, even though they were on the same team, because they weren't my guys. Like, Reichel was my guy, so I felt good for him. I didn't feel particularly good, that our Team USA had a terrible showing that year in Nagano, and I didn't care. My guy won a gold medal, and that's all that really matters. So we'll have to see. Maybe it's fine. If Brock Nelson is on Team USA, that's fine. If Matt Barzal or Noah Dobson is on Team Canada, I'll probably root for them too. Like, I don't know. Like, who knows? I'll probably go with that. But this was a huge deal. People loved it. They made a big deal about it. We're going to be hearing about this for 2 years now. And then it's, off to the NHLers are going back to the Olympics. So that's the next. So we don't really get like a proper All-Star game again until like 2027, I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's going to be a while. I'm sure, that one will probably be in Ottawa or Montreal, and they'll do the same thing. I do want to, real quick, before we get to Master Leaf Theater, I do want to shout out listener Nick, who sent me a thing. Apparently, the Leafs named, or at least there was a Man of the Year ceremony prior to the All-Star game, and the Man of the Year was deemed to be the 1967 Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, how does an entire team get named Man of the Year? I don't know. How does a team that last won championships 60 years ago get named Man of the Year in 2024? I definitely don't know. So Nick,
I disagree.
Answer for you.
You got to give it to these guys, these 1967 Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think they deserve to be Man of the Year because they are the only champion from 1967 that is still the defending champion in their league. Apparently,
I guess that's true.
If you follow the NHL and you're, or this is your first, you just got dropped into the NHL, you're like, oh, so these Leafs teams, huh? Like, how many championships in a row have they won? Because the way I read about them, sounds like they're on their way to like what 20, 21 in a row here.
Right. They're like the Yankees. No, even the Yankees haven't won since 2009. But in any event, thank you, Nick. Thank you for showing me that, because I definitely would not have seen it had I not been, because I wasn't watching the game. That is absolutely absurd. But hey, congrats to those guys. Congrats to the living members of the 1967 Leafs for being named the 2024 Man of the Year something. I don't know, but whatever. Yeah, like you said, that is the current champion there. So, but that brings us to a very special and now breaking news, very expanded episode of Master Leaf Theater. We got a couple of things going on here. I'm very excited to read. We got one big one and then two smaller ones. Again, breaking news. I just saw one that I'm going to throw in here because we're doing it. Without revealing anything, this first one was something that you said you were excited for me to read. Is that true? You were happy that I saw this and was going to make this a Master Leaf Theater?
Yeah, because this is I don't know. I don't have the words to even get there to make it. I can't make a joke about it. I can't be sarcastic about it because it is wholly like just the most unbelievable use of Twitter by a hockey media person I've ever seen. I felt like I was melting when I was reading it. Like I just started to sweat and perspire, and I blacked out. I didn't know if it was real. I
definitely didn't know it was real either. It's crazy.
I don't even know how to describe how it made me feel while I was reading it, because I was like, I don't want to keep reading this, but I have to keep reading it because I know that we're gonna make fun of it on Islanders Anxiety at some point, and I don't know if I'm happy I finished reading it or if I'm upset.
It is the kind of thing that it's short, but it feels so much longer.
Right.
Which is that kind of thing.
What music was playing in everybody's head while they were reading this is another question. Like, so weird.
Yeah, it's very.
Like, was this guy wearing a cap and gown when he was writing this? And it's like a keynote speech at a.
Does sound very college keynote speaker, or the guest speaker comes in at the college commencement address or whatever. But yeah, this is a very strange one. Now, normally for a Master Leaf Theater, I would do the setup and everything and then read it. But this time we're going to go straight into the action. I'm going to read it and then I'll explain later, which I think will make it a lot funnier. So here we go. This is the end of the piece. And again, I'll link to it in the article, but this is at the very end. And the piece reads such as this. We are all a work in progress, and I root for these young NHL men who are mostly outstanding, sometimes coddled, and given so much so soon to find emotional growth and peace in a quest with way more failure than victories and careers that end in their 20s and 30s, and parts of their job are nationally televised. No amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future. We must all get on with it as best we can. Think of others, do for others. Life goes on. C'est la vie. Never give up. Get the good bourbon and strive to swim in life's rich pageant with style and grace and peace and love, and occasionally a little Basil Hayden's. It's powerful words, strong sentiment. You may be thinking, who wrote such a powerful address? Those words, my friends, were written by ESPN's own John Buccigross. What event could possibly have spurred this man to write such an eloquent and heartfelt message on his Twitter account? Well, the answer is he wrote this after seeing Nikita Kucherov dog it during the skills competition. What? My mind is blown. This is what this guy wrote after watching this guy. Like, it's insane. What? I don't understand. How does that translate into this? It makes no sense.
And what you read was basically just not even half of
right. That's just the end. That's just the last paragraph.
That's just the last paragraph. Yeah, I think, and I do apologize if I'm coming off as like, a whiny brat talking about the All-Star game. But this is my point. Like, the All-Star game is not supposed to generate think pieces on Frank. I don't have no idea what Frank Saravalli was mad about at Sidney Crosby about, but because I saw the other side of the coin where people were talking about how he's such a good ambassador. Like, look at him hanging out with Connor Bedard and Nathan McKinnon. Like, they're professional hockey players in the same league. They're essentially coworkers.
Right.
They're in the same union. I don't think that Sidney Crosby. This isn't him like saving 78 people from a shipwreck. He's just talking to another hockey player in a locker room. And I like I said, I don't know what Frank was mad about, but so he's from Philly, so I'm sure he hates Sidney Crosby because he's definitely not a Flyers fan, masquerading around as a beat writer. But the point is, like, the All-Star game is supposed to be an escape from these kind of things, right? Like, you're not supposed. Everyone's supposed to get away, kick their feet up and like let loose for a weekend, at least for the players. And even when they do that, John Buccigross is telling them to try the good bourbon and live life to the full. He essentially wrote one of those things you'd see in college dorms, like live, laugh, love.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of those kind of soliloquies. And like John Buccigross,
Right.
the guy, like, I mean, all you need to do is like Google John Buccigross settlement, and you can find out that this guy is maybe not the moral compass that he's portraying on Twitter here, which is also it's a situation for someone else to discuss. But yeah, what on earth was going on with this one?
My guess is that Kucherov is at the skills competition, and he's clearly, again, the like emotions are high. Everybody's happy to be there, smiling, and he gets up and he does this sort of loafy thing where he's like barely doing anything out there, and people are booing him, and he's like clearly there to not. He doesn't really feel like being there, I guess, and is just kind of going through the motions. And my guess is that Buccigross saw this and wanted to somehow defend Kucherov's loafing while also kind of showing, I don't know how smart he is or how empathetic he is towards Kucherov, because he also talks about how he has a son and a daughter that are
NHL All Stars in a skills competition.
Like it's I think that he was trying to defend Kucherov, but he did it in the most ham-fisted, dorm room philosopher way you could possibly find. And this thing, to put this out there publicly, is like, dude, do you have no shame? Like, I don't understand. Like, why couldn't you have just said something like, well, maybe Cooch was out late last night? Like, I don't know.
Well,
just something.
That's kind of, this is a good conversation to have, because it kind of all ties together with like even the segment we kind of just did at 32 Thoughts, which is, you could say this stuff
right
in 99% less words. And it goes back to even the Kyle Dubas Renaissance painting tweet from Jesse Marshall. He's talking about how in like October, maybe Riley Smith had a good game or had a good zone entry or something. And he said that Riley Smith is going to go on Kyle Dubas's Renaissance painting.
Right.
And it was a long tweet about how good Riley Smith is. And I think he's been terrible since then, which is hilarious. But all he needed to say was, hey, looks like Riley Smith might be a good addition for the Penguins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all John Buccigross needed to say was, complicated guy that Kucherov is, eh? and I also think that, as I've seen like the clips of Kucherov now and I watched part of what I was watching was the passing thing.
Right.
And I saw him do what I don't even know what he's doing. I really appreciate that people hate Toronto so much that he was like, I'm not going to entertain these people. I hate them. Like,
it's true.
And David Pastrnak, I don't know what he did, but he did something like during the skating, during like the announcements before the All-Star game, where he like essentially did like a Terrell Owens kind of thing. He didn't spike the ball on the Dallas Stars logo, but he made like a little shirking move, which is good, because nobody likes these teams. Like, it's these guys, and the All-Star game being there was kind of put it all under a microscope on why we don't. I joked with one of my friends who is a Leafs fan, who I've come to really respect as a person, and he was like, "Oh my God, look at the Leafs drafting Barzal! Like, don't they know how much you guys hate them?" And I'm like, "No, it makes total sense, because Matt Barzal is probably the hottest guy there, and like that's all that Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews care about is like being part of like the hot guy crew. Like, they'd much rather like the NHL All Star game be like them just playing touch football on the beach or volleyball in like Top Gun style.
Top Gun, right? Yeah.
Like that's what there is in their head. Like that's who these guys think they are.
I do hope that Barzal said to them, just so you know, Islanders fans hate you guys too. Like, we hate Tavares the most, but you guys, they hate you too. Just so
we are our cringe radar is incredible, because like Long Island is a place where if you fake anything,
right,
people are gonna know it right away.
Yep.
And we just don't have time for it. So Mitch Marner, like I know Mitch Marner is as cringy as they come in terms of a
huge
professional athlete, and we did a Master Leaf theater a few months ago about Austin Matthews and acting.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can just it's just like these these podcasters and writers and whatever. They don't try to hide it. Like this
Right.
is it's right in front of you, so you don't really need to
Right.
deduce much to find out like what these guys care about. Like, oh, we're gonna draft Barzy because he's so cool. Like maybe he'll get us into the cool like One Oak or something next time we go to New York. Or, that's how these guys are. Like
Maybe the
I don't think there's much more to it.
Yeah, maybe they'll stop booing us next time. Nope, we still hate you too.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect segue because again, this is a multi-part Master Leaf Theater. So we have part 2, and it involves our good pal Luke Fox Jukebox, who is exactly as naked in his fandom as you just talked about. Because he's the all-star here. He is the William Shakespeare of Master Leaf Theater. And I couldn't let this go, but it is a short one, so we'll kind of give him a bit of a pass. But this is in his All-Star Game wrap-up. All it takes is one sentence to get to the Luke Fox Jukebox of it all. And so what he writes is this. I'll also put a link to this. He writes this. Dateline Toronto. The team with all the Toronto Maple Leafs won not one, but 2 elimination games on home ice, putting a tidy bow on their storybook All-Star Weekend. Okay, so what does this mean for the Leafs? Did they get 2 more Stanley Cup banners? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's an All-Star game. And the tidy bow, of course, is the perfect. But it's like, so what? Who cares? Like, okay, great, good for them. They went home happy, I suppose. But like, this doesn't mean anything to really anybody. Like, it means something to Luke Fox, I guess. But
the NHL, the All-Stars could have all got sick, not showed up to the All-Star game, and the building could have been condemned for like asbestos or something.
Okay.
And Luke Fox Jukebox and his merry band of writers would still say, man, the NHL just hit it out of the park this weekend. And it's not just the league, the city of Toronto and the Maple Leafs. They just know how to do these things, Elliot. Like, you could have, it could have been the worst. It could have been an absolute, to steal a phrase from friend of the podcast, Bruce Arthur, it could have been a tire fire, dumpster fire. And these guys still would have been writing. Like Luke Fox Jukebox, and if he did this, I give him credit because, quiet quitting, man. I'm with you, comrade. He could have wrote this 7 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah.
He just wrote this exact article 7 weeks ago, just mad-libbed in the score lines and been on a beach somewhere in Mexico with like Noah Dobson and who he keeps tweeting about, which is kind of funny. I think he's like kind of gearing towards maybe the Leafs will offer sheet Noah Dobson a year from now in the summer, because there's definitely an ulterior motive to him realizing who Noah Dobson is. But it could have been an absolute disaster, and he still would have been writing about this. Bieber shows up. This is Toronto at its finest. Dude, we see all this every day. It's no different from any other weekend. It's no different from any other hockey night in Canada.
Right.
We get the shots of the CN Tower and fans walking into the building all excited. We see the celebrities. We know that Mike Myers is a Leafs fan. Then they play hockey, and you guys write about Michael Amadio being like the next big thing for the Leafs, and we get on with our week. This is honestly no different from any other weekend in the NHL.
Yeah.
The only difference is that I had to just ignore it completely rather than watch it.
Again, even the celebrities that they picked, we know they're hockey fans. We know. We've seen this. Like Will Arnett has narrated how many NHL documentaries? Like he did the Prime Video series too, right? We know about Bieber and Matthews being buddies. Right. We know about Bublé and the Canucks. Tate McRae is new to me, but okay, great. Like I don't, so yeah, again, none of this is new. None of this is really all that groundbreaking, but they got to do it. They got licensed to do it because they were at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And again, Luke Fox Jukebox could have written that a while. I mean, how long had he been sitting on that? He probably wrote that and then took an hour-long break, just to kind of let it settle in and enjoy it.
I like that the second paragraph is like David Pastrnak being like, yeah, good for those guys. They needed a win.
Yeah. Again, totally not getting it.
You guys really don't understand how this is working. We're laughing at you. We are still all laughing at you. Like you are the bad guys here.
Right. It is funny that David Pastrnak gets it. Luke
Yeah.
Fox definitely does not.
I think that's the funny thing here is everybody gets it.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard to get, but somehow these guys
They never do.
they go to sleep on whatever April 27th, which is and the Leafs get eliminated. They wake up the next morning and it's all forgotten. It's like the Men in Black stuff. They're like, man, the Leafs did it again, man. They won again. They're the team. They're the cool team in the NHL. We get to do it all again next year.
Right.
Ugh.
It's funny. All right. One last one. Again, it is Leaf centric again, but this one is not about the All-Star game. It is in fact about Monday night's game. And so I realize that I'm maybe tempting the hockey gods here, but I did notice it when we first started recording, and I want to get it out there because, again, we're doing a big old Master Leaf Theater here. So this comes from Mark Masters, who works for TSN. And this is an update from, I guess, Sheldon Keefe's practice thing today. And it's just a tweet. But again, it is perfect for Master Leaf Theater. So Mark Masters writes this. Ilya Samsonov starts on Monday against the New York Islanders. Sheldon Keefe notes that the goalie voluntarily cut his Cancun vacation short to get back on the ice early. Quote, that shows me where his head's at and what he's thinking here. Wow. Powerful words again by Sheldon Keefe. Shows me where his head is at. He cut his Cancun vacation short to come back to practice for a game against the mighty Islanders on home ice on Monday. There you go. What a guy. Ilya Samsonov. Hopefully he doesn't get shelled for 6 goals in the first half of the game. I don't know. Again, tempting the hockey gods here.
Is there enough time to make Co-Man of the Year award? the 1967 Maple Leafs have it in them to get Sammy a bite of the apple here.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, it's not Mark Masters and Luke Fox, Jukebox, Jonas Siegel, James Myrtle. None of these guys were running Ilya Samsonov out of town 6 weeks ago.
Exactly.
This is totally not me. It was not me. It was everybody else. I always believed in him. I was rooting for the player.
Yeah, right. They were ready to drive him to Cancun and just leave him there. Right? Just drive. All right, man, here you go. Right.
They took it personally that he was not playing well. I've never heard a media contingent have actual tantrums about a goaltender. Right. He can't play anymore. He just can't. You just can't play him anymore. Yeah. Oh, he cut his Cancun vacation short. Like this guy. This is something. Right. There's something special. It's kind of like when the Maple Leafs went to the Bruce Springsteen concert last year.
Right. Oh yeah.
The first team ever to have a team building trip. In hockey history. So another feather in the cap for an organization that doesn't get enough credit for all it does. And the fact that I know who the Toronto Maple Leafs goalie coach is, makes me sick. That you know who this is a win for? Curtis Sanford. And then they name all the other 6 people in the goaltending department, and there's a whole goaltending department at the Maple Leafs, of course, at the Ford Performance Center. But
the fact that it's the Ford Performance Center.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, that's from the most infamous press conference of all time when Brendan Shanahan kept noting that he met with Kyle. I met with Kyle at his office at the Ford Performance Center on my drive to the Ford Performance Center. Come on, this is so good. It's Cancun vacation cut short. The Islanders stand no chance with a goalie who is that committed to his job that pays him millions and millions of dollars, and if he doesn't play well, he loses it because that's how the NHL works. I don't know a single other person who would be in that situation that decided, I'm going to come back early for my vacation.
And I will say this: if the Islanders do lose to Ilya Samsonov and the Leafs on Monday, this right here is going to be the lead of every story that comes out afterwards.
Oh yeah, I can write Luke Fox's Jukebox's lead for. I can write his lead for him right now. Ilya Samsonov was tan, but he could have been tanner. He was relaxed, but he could have been even fresher. But the Leafs goaltender decided to put team above self, to put the leaf above the sun. and get home early. And it paid dividends against the New York Islanders on Monday night.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we've been just doing this too long that we can kind of do this stuff. But
we recorded that. It's for posterity, so we'll have to see what happens. Now, hopefully the Islanders can ruin this and make it be like, hopefully
I can write his other lead for him too.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It'd be Ilya Samsonov went into the break on a hot streak, leaving Leafs Nation to wonder if there was a goaltending controversy brewing between him and soon-to-return Joseph Woll. Well, we have our answer. Samsonov's ill-fated early return from his vacation from Cancun didn't pay off. Perhaps the Leaf goaltender would have done better to spend a couple more hours in the Mexican sun rather than the Canadian snow. So you can just go either way. It's not a... It's... Wow. But it's pathetic and that I can do this and you can do this and funny. We just spent 45 minutes just complaining about such trivial stuff, but
right. Well, it's what we do here. That's and we hope that you have enjoyed this because we have for sure. We're probably gonna this will probably be the last Master Leaf Theater for a little while because we had a big blowout here, but you never know. Maybe we'll find interesting stuff.
We'll have to see what they write after about this cut short vacation. I mean, this could be a running series now.
I'm going to assume that Sportsnet's not going to send anybody to East Rutherford to watch the Islanders Rangers outdoor game on the 18th. So that would probably be it. But we have had a good time here. We hope that everybody's ready for these last 30 plus games of the season. We hope we've gotten you ready for it. Again, there's not a lot of time to wait. Monday tonight is going to be the first game of the Islanders' huge stretch towards the end of the season. So we'll see where this goes, and God help us all. That's all we can really say.
Yeah.
Don't forget our live event, March 30th at the beautiful brand new Offside Tavern in New York City, 4 p.m. Everything's going to start. We want to see your Weird Islanders stuff. We're going to be recording it for a future podcast. So come bring your Weird Islanders gear, your stories, because we want to hear them. That is March 30th, Offside Tavern, 4 o'clock. Sign up for patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus content. Follow us on Twitter at IslesAnxietyPod. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and at Spotify. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music and at Bandcamp and Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day. Islanders Anxiety Podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Find out more at fansfirstsports.com. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Listen to Weird Islanders, the podcast. I'm Michael Dalcole with the great Brian Compton. It was great hearing his voice again. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Listen and read his work at Action Network. Any final thoughts? It's a big one. I mean, again, this could go sideways in a hurry. That's the thing that kind of worries me. But if they don't, the Islanders can go on a run here. Then we're talking about something really cool.
Yeah, I think there's obviously no guarantees here at all. I don't know any Islander fan who would be kind of confident in how they feel, whether they feel glass half full or glass half empty about the rest of the season.
Right.
Because it's really, really hard to kind of figure out what our chances are, considering all the balls in the air and the different kind of factors at play. There's a lot of variance here. But one thing I can definitely guarantee is that when we reconvene next weekend, we're going to be very different people. And unfortunately, that's going to be because the Islanders, we're either going to be happier people because the Islanders are doing well, or angrier people because they're not. And that's our pathetic lot in life. But it is what it is. And I do want to thank everybody for sticking around and listening to what was another long episode of Islanders Anxiety, where we, like I said, just a lot of complaining in this one. A lot of complaining, a lot of bitching and moaning, which I do apologize for, because if the Islanders win next weekend and maybe some other particular teams lose, the bitching and moaning goes to the side, and this is just what happens when you get a 10-day break, and the only thing to keep us entertained is the most milquetoast All-Star game you can imagine in the city that I just don't want to even think about. So, come back next week.
and see where our moods are.
Yeah.
I think that the bitching, by the way, is justified. I do think, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. But if you want to let some of your own bitching out, this is also a week where we're doing our mid-month mailbag over at the Patreon. So sign up for the Country Club tier, get to ask us some questions, and listen to our mailbag episode, which is going to come out on Wednesday. So do that too. But yeah, that's it for us. We'll be back next week with a whole new episode, and yeah, we'll see where the Islanders are at after these three huge games coming out of the break.
Yep. Patrick Waugh. Still can't believe it. Still can't believe it.
We still have that.
We should note that, we were wondering about Patrick Waugh, and sorry to extend this even further, but he left us on the last episode of Patrick Waugh press conferences. He left us saying he was going to try to learn more about Long Island this week and maybe find a place to live. And the next day, I got a text message from someone who spotted him in a bagel store. I won't say where, but like it's incredible that
amazing.
He's just among us, our neighbor, our good neighbor Patrick Waugh.
That might be a portent of things to come.
And our new neighbor Benoit DeRoche.
Yeah, that's right. Who is probably living with Patrick Waugh in Marriott or the Garden City Hotel, wherever. But yeah, hopefully he enjoyed his bagel. Hope he's showing Benoit where to get the good bagels. And we hope he'll be back next week to see where the Islanders are at then. All right, we will talk to you then. Take care. Bye-bye.